Hey everybody, this video brings us back out to Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And the reason why we are in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania today is to check out something pretty awesome, something I've been wanting to pull over and take a look at for a while now. This is something I've driven past multiple times on the way out to other filming locations, and I always thought one of these days I'm gonna have to pull over and check this out. And today is the day where I'm pulling over and we're checking this out. We are here, the old Charlestown Cemetery. Look at this. Pretty amazing. As it says, Old Charlestown Cemetery, established 1743, used until 1864. More than 200 soldiers of the Revolutionary War are believed to lie here in unmarked graves, victims of the harsh conditions of the Valley Forge encampment, December 19th, 1777 to June 18th, 1778. Pretty crazy. And there's also a historical marker over here. This is awesome. This is really cool. They actually put this here. Patriots among the remembered. Charlestown Presbyterian Church was established in 1743 so that followers of the firebrand preacher John Rowland would have a church of their own. Legend says the site was chosen because Reverend Rowland preached under the black oak tree that still stands in the center of the cemetery, which I actually don't think it does anymore. That, I believe, is the old tree, and it looks like that would have been maybe, I'm thinking, right there where that stump is. So I don't believe the actual tree stands anymore, unfortunately. It says cemetery. The cemetery served until the church disbanded about 1895. The oldest tombstone is for Mary Pritchard, who died in 1746, and the last burial was Nathan Hannum in 1864. The grave, covered with a protective shield, belongs to Dr. Samuel Kennedy, senior surgeon at the military hospital at Yellow Springs. Several of the gravestones are marked with American flags, honoring the military service of those buried here. A large memorial marker inscribed with names of soldiers in the American Revolution and the War of 1812 was erected outside the cemetery wall June 4th, 1932. Legend also says that Revolutionary War soldiers who died at the hospital at Yellow Springs during the winter encampment at Valley Forge in 1777-78 were buried here in a mass unmarked grave. The cemetery was acquired by the Charlestown Township in 2008 to be preserved as a township historical site. That is pretty awesome. The black oak measured. See, it says measured. So that's past tense. Kind of a conflicting sign here. Measured 65 inches in diameter at the breast height in 1998. Okay, so that's where they measured it in 1998. Before his death in 1777, Dr. Samuel Kennedy financed construction of the stone wall around the cemetery. Oh, that's pretty awesome. So Samuel Kennedy, the senior surgeon, he was the one who actually commissioned the stone wall to be built around the cemetery. And he's actually buried right there. We're gonna take a look at Samuel Kennedy's grave in a second, but first I'm gonna take a look at the marker out here for the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 soldiers. Look at this. So I would assume these are the names of the soldiers they actually know who are buried here. Obviously there's not 200 names here. So the unmarked, the grave of the unknown soldiers, the unmarked grave of 200 Revolutionary soldiers, I believe these are not for them. These are just for the Revolutionary War soldiers and the War of 1812 soldiers who they do know for a fact are actually buried here in the cemetery. So pretty awesome. This is a really amazing looking cemetery. You guys know how much I love old cemeteries, so I really wanted to get out here and really wanted to check this out. Shame the black oak no longer stands. I like to call him firebrand preacher John Rowland. Apparently used to preach right underneath that tree that was once right there. The church no longer stands either. The church has been torn down, unfortunately, no longer here. We're gonna check out the grave of Samuel Kennedy. Look at this wrought iron fence. That is pretty amazing. So this is really interesting how they actually put this glass barrier, and the fact that it's actually not been destroyed, that's also kind of cool. This is the grave of Samuel Kennedy, the chief surgeon at the Yellow Springs War Hospital. So I've actually taken you guys to that hospital before. We're right by Yellow Springs, we're right by Valley Forge, not too far away from either of those two locations. And the actual Revolutionary War Hospital at Yellow Springs was the first ever hospital commissioned by the Continental Army, by the Continental government, by our government, by the government of the United States. The first ever government commissioned war hospital. Look at the bees in there. That's That's pretty crazy. So pretty interesting. They put this glass protective barrier over top of the grave. My assumption is the reason why they probably did that is because over time, these get very weathered. I mean, especially ones like this that are facing upwards like this. I mean, they get extremely weathered. It's just rained on for centuries and decades and whatnot. And then over time, you can barely see them. You can kind of see, it does say Samuel Kennedy there. I don't know if you guys can actually see that. It's very, very faint. This has definitely been worn down. So cool they put this here to protect this. I guess it sounds like glass to me. And the fact that no jerks have come out here and smashed this, that is even more amazing, because people are horrible and they do awful things like that. Really cool to see this still in good condition with the bees and everything underneath. That is so awesome. So cool they've actually taken the time to protect the headstone here. I wish more places would do that. I've been to many places where there are historical graves and you can barely read what they say on them because they've been so weathered and there's no protection, meaning over time they will get more and more weathered down. But really awesome. Very cool. Again, that is the surgeon who pretty much was in charge, performed a lot of the surgeries on the men who were encamped in Valley Forge, men who were in battles at places like, I'm guessing, Brandywine, and at battles like Germantown and whatnot. They were probably taken out to the hospital out in Yellow Springs. And this is the man in charge of possibly patching them up, seeing them into good health. Unfortunately, though, a lot of them did die, especially during the encampment 1777, 1778 in Valley Forge. There was never a battle fought there. People always say the Battle of Valley Forge. Never a battle. It was just an encampment where George Washington and his men did camp during that winter. But it was a crazy, harsh winter, very cold winter. Disease ran rampant, and a lot of men who were brought out to the hospital were actually brought to hospital because of disease. And a lot of them, unfortunately, did pass away. This is before the days of proper medicine and ways of preventing diseases and whatnot. Back then, if you had some terrible, awful disease, there was a good chance you were probably going to pass away from it. And apparently 200 men did indeed pass away while at Valley Forge and while at the hospital, and were buried here in an unmarked grave somewhere. And I believe this is the actual location. I could be mistaken, but I believe this is the location of the tree where the Reverend once preached under, supposedly, or so the local lore goes. Kind of wish the church was still here, but unfortunately no longer exists. But look at these old markers. Like, some of these are nothing more than field stones. That is it. Back in the day, that's how you had your grave marked. Just a field stone plopped down. Sometimes your name carved into it, sometimes not. I've seen ones that are just like this, completely blank, just somebody's buried here, bam, field stone. That is it. And I've seen other ones that have small little carvings, maybe an initial or something like that carved into them, but a lot of times it's just a simple field stone. I was also reading online that apparently, supposedly, there might be graves out here, other unmarked graves out here that are actually more older graves than the oldest known grave here, because a lot of these graves, again, are unmarked. A lot of these graves are just simply field stones, so they don't actually know the dates of every single person who was buried out here. And as such, that marker does talk about the oldest gravestone they know is here. But a lot of these actually date back a little bit further than that, back to when the actual cemetery was first established here. There are so many soldiers out here. It's insane. This is a huge place This is a cemetery where a lot of soldiers were indeed buried. A lot of Revolutionary War soldiers. Apparently, supposedly 200 in an unmarked grave. And that's just the ones that are in the unmarked grave. There's other Revolutionary War soldiers that are buried out here in actual marked graves. But the fact that there are 200 men buried somewhere out here in an unmarked grave is pretty crazy. Look at this, Revolutionary War soldier, Captain Alexander Carrager, am I saying that right? 5th Battalion Chester Militia in 1777. Look at that. Pretty crazy. This is awesome. Look at the obelisk here for Dennis Dempsey, Revolutionary War soldier of 1776. Look at that. The marker here is really, really awesome. Revolutionary Patriot. Looks like he died when he was 50 years old. Wow. again, it's crazy how looking at this with my eyes, it's actually kind of hard to read. But looking at it through the viewfinder, it's like the viewfinder makes everything more crisp and clear, and it has more dimension to it. Look at that. I was like trying to read. I'm like, I got 50 maybe years. But then I look at this. Although, does that say 70 years? That might be that might be a 70, not 50. That might be a 70 there. So he did not die during the actual war. Did not die in battle, but died as an old man. Pretty awesome. Really cool obelisk. I want an obelisk on my grave when I die. I think obelisks are so neat and interesting at grave sites. I've always sort of wanted one. So who knows where that mass grave of 200 Revolutionary War soldiers would be? I have no idea. I mean, it could possibly be maybe even right here. You can see there's all these stones right here. This looks very sort of familiar. This looks like a lot of different graves and cemeteries I've been to, where there's other mass graves of Revolutionary War soldiers. They're usually buried in something very similar to this, where they're either buried in a hill or just in a mound covered in rocks. This could be the spots of those soldiers. I would not be surprised. There's actually a Revolutionary War marker right here. So either there's a grave right here, or maybe this is where the actual men were buried in a mass grave. I'm not entirely sure. It does not say specifically where those men were buried. Pretty awesome cemetery. Supposedly right now we might possibly, I can see there's stones here. We're probably walking on the graves of other men and women who sadly did pass away. Probably children as well who did pass away, who were just in unmarked graves. It's crazy to think that the cemetery that someday you will be buried in, we think of cemeteries now. We see these old cemeteries and we're like, wow, these are so old. What we don't think is that the cemetery that we will someday possibly be buried in, if you're going to be buried in a cemetery, not everybody is, but if you're going to be buried in a cemetery, I have a cemetery plot with my family right next to my father. I already have that spot taken, marked out. Someday I will be buried there. And it's crazy to think that maybe in like 200 years after I'm dead and buried in the ground, maybe my cemetery will someday look like this. It'll be kind of run down. Maybe it'll be historical. Maybe it'll just be something in the woods. I mean, I've been to many cemeteries that are just forgotten cemeteries that exist in the woods and they're surrounded by trees. Nobody even knows they're there anymore. It could happen. It's crazy to think that that could be the way that someday your cemetery will be. Your cemetery might not always be a big open cemetery where you're always remembered. It could be a forgotten cemetery. Not that this one's been forgotten. This one's been preserved, which is pretty amazing. But it could someday be like this, where you're in a grave that's unmarked and people come out here. They have no idea you're buried there because your grave has just been lost to time. But look at this view. I can't stop looking at the view out here. There's a smell of a fire in the air. Somebody clearly has, I don't know, they're either cooking something. I was gonna say they have a fire going to keep warm, but it's spring right now and it's like 70, like almost 80 degrees. I think it's gonna be 80 degrees out today. So I'm gonna assume that whatever fire is going right now has nothing to do with keeping warm. Probably somebody's cooking something, or maybe I don't know, they're just burning something. It smells amazing out here right now. And look at that view. If you're gonna be buried somewhere, I mean, this is a great place to be buried. If you believe in that sort of thing, if you believe in, being buried somewhere for all eternity and having a great view, which I know you're in the ground. Would you really have a view? Who knows? Maybe there's spirits rising up and sitting on these graves right now, and they're actually out here looking at the amazing view. I can think of worse places to spend eternity than this, because that is a beautiful view of the farms out there. That is pretty amazing. You do have the children screaming over there at the daycare, but other than that, it's pretty amazing. But hey, maybe you like children. Maybe you're buried here and you love kids, and you get to see the amazing view of the farm, and you get to hear the laughter of the children. They do seem like they're having a pretty good time over there. So, all right, guys, that is it. I wanted to bring you out here to the old Charlestown Church here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Pretty amazing place. Definitely recommend coming out here if you're into old cemeteries, if you're into Revolutionary War history. This is absolutely a place you want to come out to and check out. It is pretty amazing. But all right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go now. So as always, thank you all so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check down below for links to Patreon. If you guys do become a patron, I will send you a postcard every single month from the road. I'm a little winded. I walked up a slight incline, and now I'm winded. So anyway, check down below for links to Patreon. Also check down below for links to Spreadshirt, where you can grab yourself retro rest stop t-shirts, proceeds, both from Spreadshirt and from Patreon. Do good help supporting the show and keeping the show going, bringing us out to awesome places like this to see amazing graves like that. Really cool, guys. So I do really appreciate the support. Like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you do hit that subscribe button and you are subscribed, then I will see you in tomorrow's video. And what should today's hashtag be? I think today's hashtag is, you know what? Hashtag look at that view. There you go. Hashtag look at that view. Because that is an amazing view of the farms out there. That is pretty awesome. So, all right, guys, again, that is it. I'm going to let you guys go. If you guys have been out here, leave your comments down below. If you've actually visited the cemetery, leave your comments. I want to hear from you guys. And like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And again, if you do hit that subscribe button and you are subscribed, then I will see you in tomorrow's video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one. All right, bye.